welcome back to next video on memory. We are going to continue from what we left in the last video. Here we're going to look at explicit and implicit memory tasks. So we are going to, after autobiographical memory, we're going to go into the retrieval part in the long-term memory. So long-term memory is this vast memory which has a lot of dimensions, divisions inside it, has a lot of wanted, unwanted, unnecessary memory inside us. I often wonder, why do I remember all these lyrics for no reason, right? So it's kind of very, it's kind of like, oh my God, I'm wasting my memory like that. So let's look at how we are retrieving from long-term memory in this video. So when you look at tasks, that is memory task, it's of two types, the explicit and the implicit memory task, right? So here we have the explicit memory task. It is clear to the person that being tested that they're supposed to remember it. They're supposed to retrieve it from memory. That is an explicit memory task. Whereas implicit is memory needed to do the task, but you're not exactly trying to retrieve the same information. If I have to give a real life example, we can give something like if you have to write a theory, it's a very explicit memory. You have to remember the entire theory. Or let's take the example in math, we have theorems, right? You can't include or exclude any steps other than what is in the textbook. So whereas in an implicit memory is something like an answer which is like an application oriented, like case studies that you have done. I think in subjects like even in psychology, entrepreneurship, I think in 12th standard I have a lot of case memory, case study related ones, right? They are application oriented questions, are mostly implicit. That is, you know that you have to retrieve some concept from your memory, but you don't know that exactly quotation you need to write it. So explicit memory tasks can be divided into two main categories, that is recall and recognition task. That is, recall task is when you're supposed to get it from your memory. Recognition is just picking it from the list or something like that, right? So yeah, so the example for recall task is fill in the blanks, whereas for recognition, you can give the example of a multiple choice questions. I think all of us prefer MCQs over fill in the blanks, right? So in explicit memory, we prefer recognition tasks over recall tasks. Okay, so we also have explicit memory tasks, that is the subject must generate an answer. That is in cases of if you can see the map task that we used to have when we were children. You were given the states map of India, and then you're asked to write which state, which capital, and all that. This is an explicit recall task. It's like one task where you're recalling the state and the capitals. Even now, I'm pretty familiar with the states, and because I've by-hearted it so much, I'm not sure where it is exactly located. I'm especially not able, but I'm able to recall the capitals of all the states in India. You can also they can also give you clues. There were a lot of I think in social studies we also had this chapter where we had this task where here there's a lot of cotton cultivation, and you're asked to mark that in the map, which is an amazing thing because they give you a hint and then you know where cotton is cultivated. If you don't know both, you don't know anything. That's a different story altogether, but then yeah. And then we're also they have also asked us to mark which place has the most rainfall. So we have to identify among the states which states. So that is also like recognizing something, right? So we can give many more examples to this. Like we can give examples of explicit memory tasks like that. So we have a picture about what explicit memory tasks are here. Implicit memory tasks are mostly application-oriented tasks. Like for instance, let's take examples of most of these case studies you get in entrepreneurship, right? So something that's application-oriented. You don't have to literally reproduce what you've studied, but you will apply it somewhere. You will try to bring it into the context and then answer it, right? So that is an example of an implicit task. There's one more type in this implicit memory task. It's called repetition priming task, which means any recent exposure to a word increases the likelihood of categorizing that word to the next question you're being asked. Let me give you an example. It's going to be complicated. Like for instance, I'm going to say flower. Okay, flower is your question. But right before I pop the question flower to you, I've said rose. Okay. So at that point, when somebody is asking you the question flower, the instant response, immediate response, you used to go to rose, because you've just been exposed to that cue, and there is an increased likelihood that you will come up with that particular word, and then when you're given a cue, it could evoke so many more responses in addition to this. That's a repetition priming task, that's called. Okay. Now we are going to go to something called flash bulb memories. I hope, I think most of you would have studied this in your UG, PG. Sorry, I kept it in. Yeah. So flash bulb memories. So what are flash bulb memories to begin with? If you're going to look at that, flash bulb memory refers to a memory, the circumstances in which you learnt about a surprising, emotionally arousing event. So the definition can be given as, I'm just going by the definition I have in the textbook now, and then I'll come back to this presentation. It is a recall of a shocking consequential event, as such as hearing news of a presidential assassination. This means the type of memory is rare and only occurs in cases with people extremely high on emotions and even affects a large amount of people. Again, a very good example would be the passing of the Queen, or assassination of the president like John F. Kennedy. And also, I think one of the very recent video I saw about was the US president who was in a school, and this 9/11 news was just conveyed to me. He's in front of like 40 children, and he's just getting the news about the Twin Tower attack, and he's looking at, and he doesn't know what to do. That is actually, whenever I think about 9/11, that is something that I recall now because I've seen that video. So it's not very less in intensity like what I'm saying. It's something like how you flash a photograph. It's like that. It's very high in intensity. It's because amygdala and hippocampus, they play a very important role in flash memory, which means higher the emotion, higher your possibility of remembering it. I'm very sure a lot of you will remember how you saw your 12th grade results. I remember which we used to have this internet cafes, right? So I remember which cafe I saw my result, or what I was doing when the tsunami hit us. What did I? How did I? Where was I when the ex chief minister, Mr. Jayalalitha, passed away? Right. I exactly knew at that moment where I was. I know what I was wearing and all that. So something, it's affecting a huge amount of people. Like it's impact is so huge, and the emotions also so huge. You need not have a personal relationship with them, but it's just that it's impacting you, and it's impacting in a large scale. That's what this is about. So why is it called flash bulb? Because it registers like a photograph. Okay. And also, they're highly resistant to forgetting because of the emotional arousal at the moment of encoding. At that encoding, it was so high. You're either very surprised, you're very sad, you're very happy, you're very disappointed. So all your memories are very highly associated with high emotions, right? The importance and arousal led to rehearsal. So you keep talking about it. When somebody keeps talking about, where I was, like when the ex-chief minister died, I was like, oh my God, where I was. So this whole conversation is just rehearsing again and again. And many people believe that they can recall the minor detail, like I just said, right? I remember what I was wearing. It's a very minor detail at that point of time. Brown and Kulik suggested that people's flashbulb memories are more accurate than memories of less surprising events. However, many later studies suggest that people make numerous errors in recalling those events, that sometimes you just watched it on TV, but you would have registered it like it's your own memory. It might not be your memory. So these enhanced memory can usually be explained with several mechanisms, such as how rehearsal frequency is happening, how often do you rehearse it, how distinctively you rehearse it, how elaborate you rehearse it. So there are three very important factors here for you to understand um, the intensity of this. Is first is how frequently you rehearse it, how distinctively you rehearse it, and how elaborately you rehearse it. These three are very important part of it. Now let us proceed to eyewitness testimony. Yes. I hope this was very helpful for you, and please comment your doubts below. If you hear any noise in this video, I'm really sorry. I'm doing it in a very low setup thing. And please comment your feedback and what are other chapters you want me to cover. Please let me know.